Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Pickles and Bacon Show Rewind. I am Pickles, and over to whatever you guys can see is.
Bacon?
And what are we reviewing today, Bakes?
Well, as you can see, we are reacting to the movie The Hobbit, or should I say reviewing the movie The Hobbit, because we're not reacting because this ain't a reaction channel. We just watched the
We.
movies.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, you go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
So, we usually discuss and talk about the movies and give a little bit of history about the movie. So, Bacon, what do you know about this movie?
My turn, assholes! Okay, just kidding. No, seriously. So, this is one of my favorite movies. The trilogies of both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are some of my favorite movies. Best piece of cinema ever, for me anyway. I know that these were made, I think, around 2012, 2013. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think. But this tells more of a backstory of Bilbo from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, the Hobbit is the prequel to the Lord of the Rings,
Which we'll get
and
into later.
which we'll be reviewing down the line. But these movies were made 10 years after the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I gotta say, like when I first heard that these movies were going to be made, they were going to be made with director Guillermo del Toro, and you're like, okay, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then somehow, some kind of way, they ended up with Peter Jackson, who had already done the Lord of the Rings, and you're like, bet. I was like, I just cannot wait till the Beatles sing Get Back at Mordor while they're trying to throw the ring into the freaking fire. Like, just give me the soundtrack. All right.
Okay, here's something that I gotta ask you though. While we're on the subject of the Beatles, okay? Now this is just a hypothetical question.
Yeah.
Do you think had the Beatles made this, do you think it would have been like an Elvis movie where it was just constant singing?
Um, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, because like, aren't the other Beatles movies like they actually have dialogue, right?
Yeah, but Hard Day's Night. But have you not seen Hard Day's Night? Hard Day's Night is basically a joke of things that they would do before their concert.
Right, but they have dialogue, like they're actually talking and stuff, right?
Yes, John mostly, but yes.
I mean, so yeah, and they wanted to make the Lord of the Rings. So yeah, I think I don't know if there would have been music in it, which would have been an interesting concept, but like I would have liked to have seen what that would have looked
I
like.
can smell the number one hit now, The Hobbit, and it would have been Paul like, Bilbo was a hobbit who thought he was a loner, but he knew it couldn't last.
Right? Bilbo lived his home and in a hole under the Shire, but he gets it while he can't get that.
Get back! Get back! McKellen, deals start getting made. Remember who gave you the ideas, okay? When deals start getting made,
Exactly.
remember who threw that out there.
Exactly. All right, so let's find some information about The Hobbit on Wikipedia. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, y'all, give me 2 minutes. 'Cause I gotta go get the dog from outside because she was eating, so I gotta go check on her. So give me 2 seconds.
Uh, all right, so let me know if you can see my screen. I'm going to share my screen so we could read
Not yet.
about The
Oh, there it
Hobbit.
is. There it is. Okay. You want to read it or you want me to read it?
You can read it.
Okay.
Do you want me to send you the link for the Wikipedia?
No, it's okay. And you go ahead and you read it because there's some big words in there that I can't read. So you go ahead and read it.
Okay. Um, so The Hobbit: The Unexpected Journey is a 2012 epic fantasy adventure directed by Peter Jackson from a screenplay by Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, Jackson, and Guillermo del Toro. It's based on the 1937 novel The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Hobbit trilogy is the first installment in acting as the prequel to Jackson's The Lord of the Rings trilogy. The story is set in Middle Earth, 60 years before the main events of The Lord of the Rings, and portions of the film are adapted from the appendices to Tolkien's The Return of the King. An Unexpected Journey tells the story of Bilbo Baggins, who is convinced by the wizard Gandalf to accompany 13 dwarves led by Thorin Oakenshield on a quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain from the dragon Smaug. The ensemble cast also included Ken Stott, Cate Blanchett, Ian Holm, Christopher Lee, Hugo Weaving, James Nesbitt, Elijah Wood, Andy Serkis, and it features Sylvester McCoy, Barry Humphries, and Manu Bennett. An Unexpected Journey premiered in Wellington on November 28, 2012, and then released in on December in New Zealand and the 14th of December in the United States by Warner Brothers. It's almost 9 years after the release of The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. The film received mixed reviews from critics and grossed $1.17 billion at the box office, making it the fourth highest grossing film of 2012. The film received numerous accolades at the 85th Annual Academy Awards, and it was nominated for Best Production Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and Best Visual Effects. Two sequels, The Desolation of Smaug and The Battle of the Five Armies, followed in 2013 and 2014, respectively. Okay. All right, let's stop the sharing. All right. So that was what the movie of The Hobbit was about. Um the only thing that really getting into this film, the only thing that really kind of um
Bugged you?
bugged me is that I didn't really learn all the characters' names of the dwarves right away, and it's not really apparent to me what some of them were. But I did know who Thorin was because I remember seeing it. But I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna watch the second one today and listen with headphones. I'm gonna do the initial watch, and then I'm gonna do the second watch tonight so that I can hear everything and try to pick up like where I left off because like I couldn't get that. That was the only thing I have to say
There
about
is
it.
one thing though. So I wonder if this is supposed to be preceding the events of the TV show or the Amazon series.
No, the Amazon series is supposed to be even before this because they just created the Rings of Power,
Okay.
which, like, oh my god, I watched the second season and it was so good because the big reveal, obviously,
Like we didn't know.
we didn't know,
What
but
the
then
hell's going on with my hair? I got the Elvis hair going on. Look at this.
there were some parts in the Ring of Power that I was like, oh man, this is dark even for you, Lord of the Rings. I was like, this is really dark. This is dark. Now, as you know, though, like Lord of the Rings has its dark moments. Like there's some times where you're like, oh snap, that was like really dark. But the Rings of Power, this second season, I was like, dang, they really did that, didn't? Oh, okay. I was like, I guess this is where we're going with it. But
I
I
just cut
digress.
the names. By the way, y'all, I just cut the names. Pickles, Brandyfoot, and Bacon Baggins.
I was waiting for you to see how long it was going to take you to figure that out. That's when I changed the name.
I wasn't even paying attention, to be honest with you. And in a little while, we're gonna be pickles, bacon, and legs.
Yes.
Think
Uh,
about that: pickles, bacon, and legs.
all right. So the main movie opens with Bilbo and Frodo in the same like shot from the Fellowship where Frodo and Bilbo, are talking about his story. Bilbo opens his trunk, he pulls out his book, he dips his quill in the ink and writes, "It began long ago." This is a story about I believe he says, a hobbit who lived in a hole in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I didn't catch all of it because it was hard to hear.
And
Um,
was it me, or did the Shire look a little bit bigger than in Lord of the Rings when Gandalf comes to visit? Because like the Hobbit house looked a little bit bigger.
Well, see, I think these were the shots that they redid because I know that, or I was curious about this too because I wonder if these were some of the leftover shots that they had from The Lord of the Rings because that part where they open is exactly the same opening from The Lord of the Rings, except they just threw in a couple of things.
Yeah.
Like him and, but I think it's new because you can see the difference in Elijah Wood's age. Like he looks slightly older, but not like that much older. But he does definitely look older. And I was like, okay, interesting. But I digest. And then I think there's a part where we saw Thandril, who was played by Lee Pace, when they were giving like when they were talking about Smaug the dragon and like what happened with all of that and the battle of the five armies and how the elves did not help the dwarves or whatever because they were having a fight. But Lee Pace was fucking gorgeous, dressed like this elf in the beautiful blonde hair, snatched to the gods. I was like, yes, king. Not to
Now
be
let me give the LGBTQ community their dues, cause you could tell when they work on movies.
for sure, for sure. Not to be outdone by my girl Elrond. You know me and Elrond. That's my girl. That is my girl.
Priscilla,
Okay.
Queen of the Desert.
Oh my god, I love that movie so much. All right, so the story that's playing now.
Hold on, the director's here. The director's here. The director's coming to visit. Cut it. No, she's like, no. Okay, go on.
All right. So now at this point, Thorin is now corrupted by the gold that or Thor, I guess his father, the dwarf, is corrupted by the gold that they found in the mountain. Now I realized something that I did hear during The Hobbit was that this line of dwarves are descendants of Durin, and if you watch The Ring of Power, you'll know Durin is the elf king with the pretty wife, the chunky lady. So I knew that much because I heard
And
them
isn't that
mention it.
also Gimli's father, or no?
No, the one in this movie is Gimli's father. Durin is his grandfather.
Okay. So he does have a warrior bloodline. Okay, so I
Yeah,
got you.
he does have that, and they have that the red hair and like the orangey hair
And
and things
just
like
for the
that.
record, Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn are my favorite characters in Lord of the Rings, bar none.
Same.
Oh, and Gandalf.
And Arwen.
Yes.
So now they are talking about the dragon Smaug. He arrives. He is just setting everything on fire. The she's huh? What are you
He didn't
doing?
start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. He didn't start
No,
the fire.
stop it.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry. Okay, I'll behave now.
So Smaug is setting everything on fire, and I wrote this line and I was like, "What the hell is I talking about?" Okay, so there's this one specific scene where they're showing everything in like the village on fire, and there's this little girl's dolly that's on fire. But in my notes, I was like, "The dolly's on fire. It's giving Mulan."
Right? Okay, yeah, I was gonna just bring that up. I was gonna say that reminds me of the scene in Mulan where he sees the little doll and he knows that the Hun army's there.
Think about what that line meant because I literally just read it and I was like, "What does that mean?" But then, the video.
That awkward moment when you forget what you're trying to say.
Literally, I swear to God, it says the dolly on fire is giving Mulan. Buckle up, because we have no idea where we're going. All right. So the next thing is again we get Lee Pace as Thandril. Watching this happen, not helping. He gives that beautiful like pose, and then the dwarves were kind of just left behind and they feel awful. Like, come on. They did the same shit in the Rings of Power, by the way, and then they all arrived all late, and I was like, nah, you don't get a second chance, okay? They got their asses beat.
It seems like they kind of try to make Aragorn that way in the Return of the King, but Aragorn was on it. He's like, "Nah, bitch, I got this. Y'all go take a powder. I got this."
All right, so now we go back in the Shire, and of course we see the fireworks. I was like, and then in this little fireworks scene, they have Frodo as a little boy, with Gandalf, and they're like playing with Bilbo or whatever. And I think it gives a brief familiar mention, but again, I was like, I got shit. I was like, this movie's 3.5 hours long. I gotta write these damn notes. Like, we got
I
time
didn't
to
realize that's supposed to be Frodo, the little boy that Gandalf's playing with. I didn't realize that's supposed to be Frodo.
I mean, obviously, it looks just like him, but like, I was like, we gotta take notes. We gotta discuss this. We don't got time for no side shit. All right, so then after that, oh, the hole in the ground. Oh, so this is where Bilbo writes, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." Um, I believe that is the opening line to the actual book, The Hobbit. But you guys, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings are too long to read. I ain't got time for all that.
Now I will say this because I have audibled the Lord of the Rings books. Now everything that happens in the book is completely different from the movie. Even the scene at the end in Return of the King when they ride into the fires of Mordor, even that part's different in the book because it says Aragorn comes riding in from the north on a black stallion, and then it says in Gandalf from the east on a white stallion, which is Shadowfax. We all know that. Now, if you actually seen the movie, they come in together.
Obviously, the movie's going to be different from the book because you're like, the book has to put into words what the movie is saying. So, but anyways, I digest. So at this point, Frodo goes out to get the mail. He gives it to Bilbo and looks at his writing. Again, I said seeing Elijah Wood a little bit older after the 10 years. After the Lord of the Rings, he does look the same. And then we see Frodo putting the sign on the gate that says no entry unless official party business. And he asks Bilbo if he thinks Gandalf will come. And then of course, like obviously he's gonna come for the party because like Gandalf is a sucker for, the hobbits, and if you saw the Rings of Power, you know why. Anyways, so then now it goes to young Bilbo and Gandalf. They're getting stoned in the garden, which is obviously what they do. They were like Cheech and Chong there for like a second.
Okay, and because there might be kids watching, they were having a garden salad. Kids, shut up.
No, they were having a little smoke. They were having a vape session for anyone who doesn't know what that means. So Gandalf says he's looking for someone to go on an adventure with. Anytime Gandalf says he's looking for someone to go on an adventure with, you got to be like, you got to give him the side eye because you just know there's going to be some bullshit. There's going to be some bullshit attached to that, okay? And, Bilbo's like, he pretends like he doesn't know him. He's like, I don't know you, girl. Like, I'm not going anywhere with you. The last time I went, Bilbo was like, the last time I went on an adventure with you to the HEB, you got me fucked up with the police.
Y'all, this is the off the rail you're going to get from this podcast. This is why we don't edit. This right here is the reason why we don't edit.
No, exactly. So, Gandalf is trying to sell him on this like adventure idea, and obviously Bilbo rejects his adventure idea, and he hides in his house. He's like, "Nope, don't come in, don't bother me, don't write me, don't call me, don't use words with the lady." So he's like, "Done. Like, don't even try, don't even try." So then the next thing is like Bilbo's at home, she's in her curly, she's in her slippers, she's at home making her dinner, and then all of a sudden you see someone appear on the doorway and starts banging on the door, and then it's the dwarves, it's Thorin Oakenshield, and then now the rest of the dwarves have come in and they're all in Bilbo's house. And she's like, I'm still naked. Why are you all here? Okay, you guys, that part didn't happen. But like, seriously, I just wanted to add that because I thought that was funny. I digest. So, Bilbo has all the dwarves in his house now, and they're all hungry. And they're like throwing food around. And so finally, the queen, Gandalf, has to arrive fashionably
basically how she would have looked.
Exactly. That's how exactly she looked. So Of course, Gandalf arrives, and of course, she's the life of the party, kikiing, throwing her hair back, she's got the best dress on. You know how that girl can be. So Gandalf and everyone, now they're throwing food around the table again. And they're all like, they're having a burping contest with, which, like, and if you see that first, you're like, ew, it's kind of gross, but like low key, I stand. But like really low key, I stand. All right, so then instead of washing the dishes, they're now throwing the plates around and singing as they wash the dishes. And I gotta say that some of the songs that they're actually singing in this movie are quite catchy. I didn't have to my phone catchy because don't get me twisted, they are not the Beatles.
Insert Ringo drum notes right here.
All right, so now there's a loud lock on the door, and the leader. So the leader Soren or Thorin has arrived. I think the person who arrived first is one of the other head leads. Again, I wasn't listening to the Hobbit with a headset on, so I was just flying by. And then so Thorin tells Bilbo about the quest to the Lonely Mountain, and somebody hands him a little. I think they hand him like a little contract and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to recruit. And that Bilbo is supposed to be the one to fight Smaug the dragon. Like, how are you going to give the tiniest dude the task of fighting the dragon? I'm like, dude. So Gandalf gives them an actual key to the mountain, and Gandalf lays out the plan to the dwarves and any who are looking for and anyone who's looking for a burglar to help them steal, I guess, Smaug's loot, because he's like,
Say obla di blah da.
yeah, because he's like, Smaug the dragon is like buried in like this like 15 like pile high layer of like gold and ashes. Like, I'm gonna take my chances with this dragon for a couple of gold bars. Like, seriously.
Look, for all that gold, me and the dragon are gonna fight in the parking lot like Rocky and Tommy Gunn.
I'm like, listen, I'm Mexican. That dragon's gonna be boots, bags, and belts by the time I'm done. I was like, we're gonna get our shit.
Just wait a moment. Get your nice trinkets right here. Dragon high trinkets. Just wait a
Exactly.
moment. $10 a trinket.
So Bilbo doth protest, and then of course they
but for you, $3.95.
Exactly. And of course the dwarves now hand Bilbo a contract and a bill. Like, what? Son yet? So of course, Gandalf makes up a story about Bilbo's grandfather and Gandalf. So then Bilbo asked Gandalf if he can guarantee him a safe return, and Gandalf's like, "We didn't start the fire."
He's like, yeah, I guess so.
He's like, yeah. I mean, Gandalf is basically like, "Girl, listen. I mean, if we come back, we come back, and I mean, if we don't come back, I'm not all that upset about it." And Bilbo's like, "We upset about it," and then Gandalf is like, "Well, I mean, we might come back."
I mean, there's a 50-50 possibility.
Yeah. So now Bilbo's just kind of watching the dwarves, seeing him about their location. Again, I could not fully understand the words to this song or decipher it, so we'll just leave it at that. So then everybody goes nappy time, sleepy time after eating.
Thank you. I believe I will.
And then Bilbo wakes up and everyone is gone and it's quiet. And he's like, finally. But girl, she's like, y'all did not come into my house and just like present this to me, and now y'all gonna leave all quiet after I thought protested and shit like that. Y'all wait for me. So now the next thing is, Bilbo's getting all dressed up and packed up, and he's holding the contract and running. through the Hobbiton, through the Shire. He's got his signed contract, and he finds everyone in the forest to go on this big adventure. So, and that's like literally the first 30 minutes.
Question though, where did the horses come from?
God only knows where.
Because clearly they're in the Shire, right? Ain't no horses around. Like Gandalf didn't ride up on a horse, so where did the horses come from?
I don't know, but this is the
Unless
first time.
they stolen. Unless he conjured them up with his magic wand, and he was like, horses appear.
Look, this has donuts on it. Hold on, there you go.
Also, traffic colors too: red, yellow, and green.
Anyways, okay, so now Bilbo finds them in the woods, and he tells them that he signed the contract. Thorin welcomes him, and he gets a pony, which are tiny, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen it on Netflix. There's a show called Free Reign. It's a kids show from it's or like a young adult like teenage show from like 2015, and it's about this American girl who goes to who goes to visit her mother's parents in London, and she starts riding horses at this like horse camp or whatever. It's so not something that I would have watched, but I did want to see it because my favorite character from Shadow and Bone was in that movie, and it's a show. It was really good, but it's like they're like 14 and 15. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing hanging out with the children? Like, where are your parents? Like, I need some adult drama. Anyways, I digest. So of course, Bilbo's being a diva. She's not sleeping. She wants to play with the ponies, and that's when they first tell her about the orcs, because the orcs have been around forever. They're even in the Rings of Power. Like, what? Let me get this lit. All right, so Bilbo is told about how bad the orcs are, and like about the white bald orc. The king Thor from the mountain earlier, who found the gold, tries to take back the mountains, the mines of Moria, and tells about the death of Durin. Rings of Power. Durin, I wrote in my notes, I know from the Rings of Power, and he's so funny, and I love his wife. She's so beautiful. Then Gandalf tells of the 5 wizards, himself, the 2 blue, which he doesn't mention, which one is Tom Bombadil. Again, if you saw the Rings of Power, this is the first time that I've ever seen Tom Bombadil, the wizard, actually being portrayed in any sort of Lord of the Rings media. And then he tells about Radistak, who's in this movie, and then the last one that he can't remember, and of course himself. I think he also mentions that there's a dark wizard, which is Sauron. No, not Sauron. Saruman. And then, which is Christopher Lee. We got Christopher Lee again. And then, now we see Radistak. He's trying to save a hedgehog who's making these little squeaky noise, and I swear this little hedgehog reminds me of a little dog. Like, I was like, oh my god, he is so cute. And then, while this is happening, there's large spiders who are trying to get in, which is weird. Like, what is with the spiders? I don't get that part. Anyways. So everyone rides their ponies, and guess where they end up?
Gee, I wonder.
They end up with my girl in Rivendell. They end up to Elrond. And I'm like, yes, queen, you still look the same. You look the exact same. Nothing has changed. Even though this movie's made 10 years later, Elrond, you're still with the long, beautiful hair. Like, girl, that is my Hugo Weaving from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and V for Vendetta, and of course from The Matrix. But like, if you know Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and you've seen him in that flip flop dress, you know, okay, you know. So, Gandalf is telling, Elrond, if they can help with their journey. And, Gandalf gives the dwarf leader a talk about, the elves and, like, how they gotta be, because, you gotta behave with Elrond. But Elrond's like, girl, you're kind of cool. Like, it's okay. Y'all can just stay for as long as you want. And then the next scene we see is the dwarves eating, of course, because, like, what else are you gonna do when you're a dwarf? Like, and you have all the best food.
Okay, y'all. So I found one of the coolest pictures of one of the hobbits. Do you want to see? Do y'all want to see? This is him in the studio when they was recording Abbey Road. When they was recording the Please Please Me album.
Yes. All right. So obviously Gandalf storms off, and the ponies go missing, and that's when they discover, a mountain troll has taken the ponies. And everyone elects Bilbo to get the ponies back. Like, no, you did not. I am not going anywhere.
The which Bilbo's like, who?
She's like, girl, not me. Not me, said the cat.
He's like, Bilbo, oh, you mean me? Hell
no. So the trolls are, they're like the Three Stooges. Like, literally, they were slapping each other around. And the banter between these guys were like, these little three trolls, I literally wrote in my notes. The trolls are like the Three Stooges. And they find Bilbo and they're trying to eat him. And then they proceed to have a fight with the dwarves. And then they have all the dwarves tied up to, like, the little spitfire, like the rotisserie thing, and they're like roasting it, and I was like, that's gonna take forever to cook. I'm just saying, like, count me out. And now the trolls have all the dwarves, and they put them in a bag, and they're ready to finish the rest of them. And Bilbo lists all the reasons why the trolls shouldn't eat them. And I was like, yeah, same, because, like, why? And so, of course, now Gandalf comes in and exposes the trolls to sunlight, and they turn to stone and crumble, of course, because, like, y'all are dumb as hell. I'm just saying. But I found that part really interesting. And then the dwarves find the trolls' treasures, and they find the swords, and then Gandalf finds a sword that was made from the elves of the first age, and this turns out to be Sting, which will all come very well to know. It was glowing blue and singing Roxanne. I swear to God. I swear to God, I heard it.
There was also various points where it had red and white face paint was going, woo!
Exactly. Like, y'all had to hear it. And I was like, what the heck is commentary happening? Like, what is going on? I'm like, Sting?
We just crammed two different Stings into one sword, y'all.
All right, so now Gandalf, so now the dwarves, sorry, I have to turn the page. So Gandalf finds the sword. He gives it to Bilbo, and he tells him that it glows blue when orcs are around, because, like, if you saw the Lord of the Rings, you know. And now we're back with Radistak, and he shows up, and he can't remember what he was going to say to Gandalf, because, like, they have this little banter or whatever. But apparently Radistak can ride the eagles and the birds, which are a big part of this movie. So Radistak tells Gandalf about the large spiders that attacked his house, and then explains about the necromancer, who, in case you didn't know, Smaug the dragon and this necromancer are voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, which I found was interesting, because I was like, finally we have a Benedict Cumberbatch movie that he's not actually in.
But here's my thing, though. Why, when he was playing the dragon, he actually sounded like Sean Connery? Like, listen to his voice. Was he trying to do a Sean Connery impersonation? Because that's literally who he sounds like.
As long as he doesn't say penguin, we're fine. He must have been making balloon animals at that time. So I was like, maybe that's where he came up with the voice. Okay, we're just gonna leave that there. So low-key
we
Gandalf.
Can't behave, y'all. We're not sorry. We can't behave.
So low-key Gandalf is high as hell this whole time, because he's been smoking that pipe, and God only knows what kind of weed. That is, I'm like, that must be that good kush, that elven kush, that Rivendell, like, 3054, the, like, fifth age shit, the shit that just came off the street now, but they had it back then, right?
It's been dried for a long time.
And then he gives Ratastack a puff on his pipe to calm down, obviously, because, that's how you calm down a girl.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if you know
That
Ian
didn't sound
McKellen,
right.
you're just like, let me just take a smoke of that pipe, right?
That didn't sound right, but Ian McKellen, we love you.
So, of course, now the orcs are closing in, and the dwarves created diversion so everyone can escape the orcs. And Gandalf leads the way for everyone to escape, of course. And then the orcs are attacked, but then they're saved by the elves and Elrond. And of course, they come out of the mountain and they arrive again at Rivendell, and the dwarves protest. And Gandalf, of course, leads the way back into Rivendell, and now we get a shot of the elves greeting Gandalf. And then, of course, my girl Elrond arrives again, and Hugo Weaving as Elrond again looks the same after 10 years. Did you know that Hugo Weaving has epilepsy? I read that in his Wikipedia, but I don't know how true that is because I don't think I've ever heard him talk about that.
I was wondering about that because you could kind of see hints of it in V for Vendetta. If you've ever seen the movie V for Vendetta, you could kind of see traces of it. Like I thought it was something else, but like seeing it, I was like, because okay, so hold on, y'all. So let me kind of give a little backstory before we finish. So I'm the type of person where I could pick up on little things, like little quirks and little things that people have. I get that because, as you may or may not know, I do have autism. And I picked up on that right away with Dan Aykroyd before he even said that he had autism. I would pick up on little tics and little quirks that he had that I was like, hey, I do some of those things too. And then like having the little character voices. So when I saw V for Vendetta with Hugo Weaving, I was like, there's something off there. I was like, there's something there. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but that makes a lot of sense now that you mentioned that.
So, now Gandalf and Elrond have a banter, while the female elves are playing the harps. Elrond tells them about all the swords that they found, and Gandalf shows him Sting, and then also proceeds to convinces the elves to show Elrond the map of the Lonely Mountain. Elrond reads the map in the moonlight on this beautiful like hilltop thing that I guess is new because I don't remember seeing it in the Lord of the Rings. And now we get a shot of the orcs that they go back to their master, and then they tell excuse me. And they tell them that they lost the party. And now back in Rivendell, Bilbo sees the destroyed sword on the statue, which is the same sword that we see again at the end of the Return of the King, and it's all throughout Lord of the Rings. And the sword is the one that belongs to Isildur, the father of Aragorn, and that Arwen had rewelded in Lord of the Rings so that he can use it in battle. Elrond sees Bilbo and they have a nice little chat. Elrond says the hobbits like the comforts of home, and that he's surprised that he went on this journey, and that if he wants to stay, he can stay for as long as he wants, because Elrond is cool like that. Just if you could just help yourself to anything in the fridge if you get hungry. I'll be back in a little bit because I gotta go to work and say I gotta go save the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course Bilbo is exploring, and he hears Gandalf and Elrond talk about the dragon and how it's a bad plan and how everyone's gonna get smoked. Um, and then of course now we see Lady Galadriel, which is Cate Blanchett, still looking the same again after 10 years, because you know how that is. And Elrond says that they need permission from them, so that they can get Saruman And they send for him, and of course we get Christopher Lee. She takes off her sunglasses. She comes in the house. She's the cool diva, but she's okay
She
looking.
don't wait to be announced. She just walks her ass up in there.
She just in there, and now Gandalf is telling them about the 7 dwarf rings.
Excuse
And
me.
Saruman says Saruman has a very good line in this part where he says, "The one ring has been lost." And then I noted, "See the Lord of the Rings."
For more details.
And ask Frodo how that went. Because, at this point, the One Ring is around, but she ain't around. Because, she's chilling with Gollum in the cave. So, she's not on the radar yet. And then
She
Elrond
hasn't made her presence known yet.
And then Elrond is told the dwarves are leaving with Bilbo. And Galadriel warns Gandalf that this find has awakened a dark force. We know, girl. We know. We've been knowing. We saw the first 3 movies. And then Galadriel tells Gandalf if they need her help, she will come to find them. And then at this point, the dwarves are attacked on the side of the mountain by the stone giants, and you have this really cool shot with all the rain and all these rocks being thrown at these dwarves. And then they're also knocking over parts of the mountain, and the stone giant they really look to me like Rock'em Sock'em robots. Literally the way they were moving, I was like, are you serious, you guys? Rock'em Sock'em robots, but whatever. And then at this point, Thorin says, "I thought we lost our burglar. He's been lost since we got here. Since we left home, he should have never come." I thought that was a very interesting line. And then we get and then the next thing we get is the uh Bilbo slipped off the mountain, and everyone was worried about her, but she's fine now. And inside the mountain, where the dwarfs camp, the orcs are still outside looking for them. And of course, my girl Bilbo, she's restless. She wakes up. He grabs his things and he takes off. And it tells everyone that he's leaving. Of course, Bilbo is found out by one of the dwarves, and they have a chat. Saying, he said something like, "I wish you all the luck in the world." And then Bilbo's sword starts glowing blue, and now they are fighting with the orcs while Bilbo just watches them from the sideline and leaves the dwarves to fight the rest of these orcs.
Later, losers.
And then Bilbo starts fighting a few orcs on the bridge with the blue sword. And then this is where they get kidnapped by that fat orc who's singing on the bridge, with the long jowls. Um, and the dwarves do not look like they're happy. Thorin decides to come forward and challenge the chubby orc who sends for the pale orc because he knew exactly who that was. And so again, now Bilbo again was napping because what else does she do on this long trip but luxuriates. So she wakes up, and guess who she sees?
I give up. Who?
Yeah, well, that's
I
who's
can't hear you. You're going in and out. I can't hear you. You're muffling and going in and out.
So she sees Gollum. That's basically who's there. Because, Gollum, again, is in this movie, and you're like, fuck, we have to deal with this fool
We're
again?
like, oh, Gollum, we forgot you were there. You may go now.
And so, of course, Gollum is pulling and killing the orc, and oops, there goes the ring just flying out of his pocket. And I'm like, Bilbo, leave it there. Leave it there. Don't touch it, Bilbo. Bilbo, don't touch it. And what does he do? He picks it up and puts it in his pocket.
Shoot,
Oh
unless
my
you make another
god.
movie, you screwed this one up.
And then, of course, Bilbo is just there hanging out, and then he makes eye contact with Gollum, and that's the first thing. The first rule about Gollum is don't make eye contact with Gollum, because now she's all up in your business for the rest of your damn life, and you can't get rid of her. And so they have a meeting where Bilbo
Look,
uh so they have a meeting where Bilbo threatens Gollum with the sword, which he should have. And then he and Gollum start playing this like riddle game, and Bilbo they have a back and forth, and of course Bilbo's holding the sword on Gollum, and Bilbo tells him they'll play a game of riddles, and Bilbo rages that if he wins, Gollum needs to show him the way out, and if Gollum wins, he can eat him. So Gollum, of course, freaks. They go back and forth.
you okay?
Yeah, and they're having the riddle off or whatever, and then it's at that point that Gollum realizes that the ring is gone because he wants to put it on to disappear to like trick this guy, right? To trick Bilbo, and Bilbo has the ring, and of course runs away because like that's what you do when you stole something from someone that technically isn't theirs to begin with, but perhaps the best thing would have been to keep the ring in the damn mountain to keep it closed, but whatever. So now we get back to the fat orc who was singing again and ready to attack the dwarves. But then this is the part where they are blasted by Gandalf, who tells them to take up their arms and fight. And so now they're all fighting, and then after they're done killing this chubby orc, the dwarfs all follow Gandalf out into safety. And then we go back to Bilbo, who's trapped in Gollum's cave, and the ring while they're fighting, the ring flies out of Bilbo's pocket and lands on her finger. Ma'am, don't put that ring on.
Watch any horror movie ever, Bilbo.
So of course, this is where we learn that they like put him in a shadow realm or like the upside down or something. I'm not actually sure what's happening when you put on this ring, but you're like invisible, and so you can see Bilbo's there, but he's like in this shadow like thing. And
Right here,
then
let me stop you really quick because I have a question. So, okay, so as a lot of you may or may not know, is Gollum had the ring, right? According to the Lord of the Rings, he had it for over 500 years, right? Now, if you listen to what Aragorn says in the Lord of the Rings, it says that the horse lords or the horse riders that come for Frodo were possessed by the ring. Why wasn't Gollum turned into one of those? Was it because he had a little more self control than that,
but he
or
was but I thought that was the story, that he was corrupted by the ring and that's why he turned into the creature golem.
no? I know that, but like if you listen to what Aragorn says, he says that the horse lords, remember the ones that come to kill the hobbits in the Fellowship. Okay, he says that they were once men. He said they were corrupted by the ring. He said, but they're not neither living nor dead, which technically would stand for Gollum too, right? So why didn't he become one of those ring wraiths?
I think those ring wraiths, I think they were created by something else. I think they were the
No,
army
he
of.
says no. He says, and anybody in the comments can fact check me on this. Aragorn literally states he says they were once corrupted by the ring. He said, but they're not neither living nor dead.
Yeah, but they had a different ring than the one ring, because remember, Gollum and Bilbo have the one ring. This one ring was the one that ruled all the other rings, and this was the ring that Saruman and no, Sauron, who turned into the oh my god, what's his name? What can I remember? Well, he's the one that created the ring with Celebrimbor in the Ring of Power, and he can shape shit. Why can't I think of what his name
That's
was?
why he's the eye. That's why throughout the whole movie he's like this. Throughout the whole
Yeah.
first movie, he's like, Frodo statue girl. Sorry,
He
y'all.
was
I had coffee, so forgive me.
he was a Lord Sauron. What did they call him when he was in the the Iron Crown. Why can't I remember what it's called? Anyways, I digest. I can't remember. Anyways, we'll get back to that later. So at this point, the dwarves have now cut down the bridge and they are out. They are fighting now on that swinging bridge that's going down, 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 and it's amazing. The collapsing bridge though part was a little scary because I'm like, how are y'all keeping your balance? Because I couldn't keep my balance to save my damn life.
No, we
And
fat kids. We can't keep our balance. We fat kids.
and then the orcs are coming down the mountain and it's so beautiful. I love the wide sweeping shots. I've always loved the wide sweeping shots in the Lord of the Rings and of course in this movie.
But all of Lord of the Rings, though, even in the Hobbit, it's still beautiful. Like all the scenery, everything's still beautiful and green and everything.
Yeah. And then Bilbo is still in the shadow upside down realm and he can see Gandalf with everyone escaping. But Gollum is still looking for the ring, and in this one particular part he looks so alone, and Bilbo is holding the sword to his head, and then of course he leaps over him to run away, and I guess Gollum could feel it even though he's invisible, and Gollum is crying because Bilbo stole the ring from him, and then when Bilbo gets out of the mountain and everyone is looking for him, he's still invisible under the ring shield, and then he takes it off and shows himself. And Gandalf gets a moment where he sees the ring and puts it in his pocket, and he just knows that that's going to come back to haunt them later. So Thorin asks Bilbo why he came back, and they have their little moment where they all hug and everything like that. And then now the white orc is back. He's coming after them. Gandalf tells everyone to get into the trees, and they are all hanging in the trees. And this particular moment has one of my favorite parts where the white elf is looking for Thorin in the trees, and he sends the banshees after them. And as the banshees are cutting down the trees are like collapsing in a domino effect and everyone is jumping from tree to tree. And I just love how it looks against the dark background where you can see what's happening. Um, and then Gandalf teaches everyone to light the pine cones and they set the woods and the trees on fire. And then Thorin and the white orc they face off because they got to have a dance off and lip sync for their life. And that's when Bilbo takes notice. He pulls out his sword and he goes after the orcs with the blue blade, with Sting. And Sting at that point is singing Fragile because, you got to make everyone's heart sing. And then just as the dwarfs come in to kick ass, um, Gandalf sends for the eagles. The eagles arrive. They save Thorin, who I think got stabbed by one of the blades, one of those Morgul blades, and shoos all the orcs away, and the elves carry everyone away to safety. The eagles leave everyone on top of this mountain peak, where Gandalf tries to wake him. There was one particular scene in this part where it showed the shadow, one of the shadows of the men who turn into those ring wraiths. And it was on top of the same mountain where they first attacked Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. Do you remember that? Where they attacked him with that
I
blade
remember.
and he was sick? And then Thorin asks Bilbo at that point what he was doing, and then hugs Bilbo and says that he was sorry to have ever doubted him. And then now they all see the lonely mountain that they have been looking for. And there's a line here that says, "I do believe the worst is behind us." Like Bilbo, read the damn room. Read the room, girl. And the bird is cracking his acorn on the I guess on the outside of the mountain, And of course, the little bird cracking his acorn wakes up Smaug. Roll the credits, and then I noticed that a lot of the same score that plays throughout The Hobbit is the same that was playing throughout Lord of the Rings. And that was something that I picked up on. But in short, that was our discussion of The Hobbit. So, what do you think about this movie overall? This particular movie in this series, did you think this was the
It is
best
the
one?
first Hobbit, by the way, because there's two more.
Yeah. So, did you think this particular one is the best one in this series?
Yes.
Um,
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best one in the series, but as far as introductions go, like I think this one is the better one. That is, I do have my thoughts and opinions on the coming ones, especially because we get to see a couple of characters from the Fellowship who are going to be coming here soon in the second two movies. So, like, yeah, I can't wait to discuss those characters. And like, um, I have to literally, if I'm going to rate this movie, I have to give it. This is going to be hard for me to do because I really love this movie. But I'm going to stand, and I'm standing right here at a solid 8.5 out of 10.
I like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, obviously is one of my favorite movies. We saw The Fellowship like 13 times. Like I remember when it first came out and like how this was so different. It sort of started kicking off this like fantasy genre. It came out, I believe Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter movie came out like a month before this movie. But as far as The Hobbit, like getting it was so much fun to get to go back into that, realm of the elves and the orcs and everything like that. So when The Hobbit did come out, like that was really good. As far as this first movie in the Hobbit series, do I think it was the best one? No, I think the other two that are coming up have better parts and have much better characters. But that's just me. Do I would give this one a solid 5 out of 10. Only because it exists to like tell the story and get the ball rolling. Again, it's not the desolation of Smog or the Battle of the Five Armies, which I think is really the best one in this particular franchise. But um, if the movie The Hobbit comes on and I just happen to be in the room, I'm not gonna turn it off. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna watch it. But as far as like me choosing to watch The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings, I would watch The Lord of the Rings over The Hobbit any day.
Same, like I'm more of a Lord of the Rings fan than the Hobbit. Not casting aspersions on the Hobbit, 'cause I love the Hobbit movie, but I'm more into the Lord of the Rings. Like I love Lord of the Rings.
I'd also venture to say that I also think The Ring of Power is slightly better than The Hobbit. But of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But um, so that was our discussion about The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey. And if you'll stay with us, we'll be back. We have a special guest coming up here at about 1 o'clock today, and we're going to discuss them for about an hour. And then on Wednesday or in the coming days, we'll have part two to The Hobbit, and then part three, and then we will end on Halloween with Houdini. I'm hoping, and then we'll discuss what we want to do for November. Other than that, Bacon, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you guys later. Don't forget to comment and share and subscribe so that we can get bigger and have more better guests on our show. But that was it. Bye, y'all.